In some ways, vice presidents are like understudies. You may never need them to step into the breach, but they're there just in case something goes wrong. So I want you to consider the following. Donald Trump, who's currently 78 years old and regularly frequents McDonald's and loves his Diet Cokes, would end his second term as the oldest person ever to serve as president of the United States. In fact, he'd be 82 years, 7 months, and 6 days when his term would end in January of 2029. But Trump refuses to release even the most basic information about his health. Kind of makes you wonder, what's he hiding? And not to mention his rambling, meandering speeches have led to mental health experts going on the record concerned about potential cognitive decline. Trump's history of shocking gaffes and outbursts suggests that things are just going to go even further downhill from here.
All right, everyone. Adam is here. So what just happening, guys? JD Vance isn't waiting for Trump's term to end. He's quietly positioning himself to take over right now, using media appearances to lay the groundwork while sitting in the same intelligence briefings and situation room meetings as Trump. The most dangerous threat to Trump isn't coming from Democrats or prosecutors, it's coming from the man smiling at him down the hallway.
So what happens if Donald Trump dies or becomes incapacitated and can no longer serve as president? Section 1 of the 25th Amendment states that in that event, the vice president becomes the president automatically. So I'm going to state it plainly. J.D. Vance is a heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States. Vance has poll numbers labeling him the least popular vice presidential candidate of the 21st century. Unsurprising, given his many extremist views on everything from child care to the truth of who won the 2020 election.
He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
Here is what is happening behind the scenes. Vance has been leaking to major outlets, the New York Times, Axios, others, painting himself as the real decision maker in the White House, the voice of reason, the steady hand, the one person who tried to stop the chaos while everyone else went along. According to these carefully placed stories, Vance was the one who pushed back against the Iran war. He was the dissenter in the room. He was the adult in the room while Trump, Netanyahu, and Hegseth were rushing toward catastrophe.
When it comes to the Vice President, J.D. Vance, what has changed that has made him more of an active participant in these negotiations with Iran?
I don't think anything has changed. The Vice President has always been a key member, the President's right-hand man, and a key member of the President's national security team. He's been part of these discussions throughout this entire course of the administration with respect, again, to the 12-day war that the President and his national security team negotiated a solution to, with respect to the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza and the release of the hostages, which there was a lot of criticism that couldn't get done, and it did. The Vice President has been by the President's side every step of the way, and any reporting otherwise is just completely false. I see him in the room. Again, the President seeks his counsel on all matters, both foreign and domestic.
And Vance is not being subtle about it. He is letting reporters know that he was the reason the ceasefire happened, that he was the one who told Trump to take the deal, that he was working behind the scenes with Chinese diplomats and Russian intermediaries to hammer out an agreement while Trump was, according to one account, frenzied and frantic.
The White House saying Vice President J.D. Vance will travel to Pakistan along with the U.S. delegation, which includes Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner.
Let me walk you through the deal itself, because understanding what Vance helped push through is essential to understanding why this matters. Iran presented a 10-point framework, and here is what those 10 points demanded. All U.S. military bases in the Middle East must be shut down. Full reparations must be paid to Iran. Iran can continue enriching uranium with no restrictions. Iran receives security guarantees for itself, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Shiite militias in Iraq. All sanctions against Iran must be removed. Iran is recognized as a major geopolitical player, and Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz, charging $2 million per ship while limiting traffic to 10 ships per day, down from the historical average of 150. That is not a negotiation. That is a surrender document. That is Iran getting everything on its wish list while the United States gives up every strategic position it has spent decades building in the region. The original U.S. framework was 15 points. The Iranian framework was 10. And somehow, the final deal looks almost exactly like the Iranian framework, which means either Donald Trump did not read the 10 points, did not understand the 10 points, or simply did not care what the 10 points said because he was desperate for a deal. Think about the optics of this. The President of the United States posted on social media that Iran's 10-point proposal was a workable basis for negotiation. He reposted the Iranian foreign minister declaring victory. He essentially broadcast to the world that he had accepted terms that give Iran everything it wanted and the United States nothing. And where was Vance during all of this? According to the reporting, Vance was looped in late. China helped get Iran on board. Vance was working with Pakistani intermediaries. Vance was the one who told Trump, "Take the deal, it is strong." Vance is now leaking to the press that he opposed the war before it started, that he was the lone dissenter, that he tried to stop Trump from invading Iran in the first place. Let me read you what the New York Times published. This was their inside account of how the war started. The reporting described how Trump's hawkish thinking aligned closely with Netanyahu, more so than even some of the president's key advisors recognized. It described how even skeptical members of Trump's war cabinet deferred to the president's instincts, with the stark exception of Vance, the figure inside the White House most opposed to full-scale war. Who do you think fed that story to the Times? Who benefits from being portrayed as the lone voice of reason while everyone else, including the president, was bloodthirsty? That is Vance. That is his team. Those are his leaks. And the timing is telling. Vance gave an interview recently where he said, "Donald Trump is very healthy, but I will be ready if tragedy strikes." What a strange thing to say, "I will be ready if tragedy strikes." That is not the language of a loyal vice president waiting patiently for his turn. That is the language of someone who sees an opening and is preparing to walk through it. Now let me talk about the 25th Amendment, because that word is being used now in ways it has not been used before. Not as a joke, not as hyperbole. Serious lawmakers, dozens of them, are saying that Trump is physically and mentally unfit for the position. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who knows Trump as well as anyone in Washington, has said he is physically and mentally unwell and needs to be removed. Alex Jones and other former MAGA figures who were once fiercely loyal are now saying the same thing. They see what is happening. They see the deterioration. And they are saying out loud what many others are saying in private. This is not a small thing. When the people who stood by Trump through everything, the impeachments, the investigations, the criminal indictments, start saying he needs to be removed under the 25th Amendment, something fundamental has shifted. The coalition that protected him is fracturing, and Vance is positioning himself to be the beneficiary of that fracture. Let me take you to Hungary. Because what Vance did there is revealing. He traveled to Budapest. He held a campaign rally with Viktor Orban. He told the crowd, "We have to get Viktor Orban re-elected as Prime Minister of Hungary." He attacked Brussels. He attacked the European Union. He repeated Kremlin talking points about Ukraine interfering in elections, a claim that has no basis in fact, but is a staple of Russian disinformation. He sounded less like an American vice president and more like a Putin proxy. The pattern is unmistakable. Vance is auditioning for the role that Trump once played, the Putin defender, the NATO skeptic, the disruptor of the international order. But here is the difference. Trump played that role from a position of political strength. Vance is playing it from a position of ambition, positioning himself to take over when Trump cannot continue. Let me walk you through the evidence piece by piece. There are the leaks. Multiple stories in major outlets, all portraying Vance as the reasonable one, the dissenter, the voice against war. These stories did not write themselves. Someone in the White House is feeding that information to reporters, and the person who benefits most from that narrative is Vance. There is the ceasefire deal. Vance was reportedly involved late in the process. He was working with Chinese and Russian intermediaries. He told Trump to take the deal. And now, when the deal inevitably becomes unpopular, as it will when the full terms become widely known, Vance can distance himself. He can say he was just trying to make peace. He can say he was working with international partners. He can blame the bad terms on Trump. There are the 25th Amendment calls. Serious people, including former Trump allies, are saying the president is not fit to serve. That creates a political opening. If enough people believe Trump is incapacitated, the pressure to invoke the amendment becomes irresistible. And who would benefit from that? The vice president, the person who would assume the presidency if Trump is removed. There is the international trip. Vance going to Hungary, campaigning for Orban, attacking U.S. allies, repeating Russian propaganda. That is not normal vice presidential behavior. That is someone building an independent political identity, someone positioning himself as a leader in his own right, someone who is not waiting for Trump to leave office but is actively preparing for the transition. There are Vance's own words, "I will be ready if tragedy strikes." That is an odd thing for a vice president to say about a sitting president who is supposedly in good health, unless Vance sees something that he is not saying publicly, unless he knows something about Trump's condition that the rest of us are only beginning to understand. Let me talk about what is happening to Trump. The reports of his physical and cognitive decline are coming from multiple directions. People who see him regularly say he is not the same. He is all over the place. He cannot focus. He forgets what he said moments earlier. He makes decisions based on impulse rather than analysis. He is desperate for wins, any wins, regardless of the long-term consequences. The Iran deal is a perfect example. Trump set a deadline. The deadline approached. He had talked a big game about blowing up Iranian civilization, but when it came time to act, he could not do it. He was too scared of the market reaction, too scared of the political fallout, too scared to follow through on his own threats. So he took whatever deal he could get, even a deal that represents the most humiliating surrender in American history, and Vance was there. According to the reporting, Vance helped finalize it. Vance told Trump to take it. Vance is now taking credit for bringing peace while letting Trump absorb all the criticism for the terms. This is the dynamic that should terrify Trump. Vance is not betraying him in the traditional sense. He is not openly challenging him. He is not forming a rival political operation. He is doing something much more sophisticated. He is letting Trump be Trump while quietly building an alternative narrative. Trump makes the bad deal. Vance tries to stop the war. Trump accepts surrender terms. Vance brokers the ceasefire. Trump appears weak and confused. Vance appears reasonable and steady. Over time, that narrative accumulates. Every leak, every story, every interview adds another layer. And when the moment comes, when the 25th Amendment is invoked, or when Trump simply cannot continue, Vance is ready. He has already told the story of his own heroism. He has already positioned himself as the responsible adult. He has already built relationships with international actors, including China and Russia, that will serve him when he takes over. Let me talk about the ceasefire itself and why I believe it will not hold. Iran has declared that it controls the Strait of Hormuz. It will charge $2 million per ship. It will limit traffic to 10 ships per day. The Iranian military will escort ships through the strait. This is not a peace agreement. This is Iran seizing control of one of the most important waterways in the world. And when the details of this arrangement become widely known, when the American people understand what was given away, the political backlash will be enormous. And when that backlash comes, who will it fall on? Trump. He is the one who posted about the 10-point framework. He is the one who reposted the Iranian foreign minister's victory declaration. He is the one who owns this deal, and Vance will be waiting in the wings, ready to say that he tried to stop the war, that he pushed for better terms, that he is the one who can fix the mess. Let me give you one more piece of evidence. Axios reported that Vance had a difficult call with Netanyahu where he told the Israeli prime minister that his assessments for toppling the Iranian regime were not realistic. Vance said Netanyahu was too optimistic. That is another leak. Another story making Vance look like the sober realist while others, including Trump, are chasing fantasy. The barrage of leaks is not accidental. It is coordinated. It is strategic. It is designed to accomplish two things. First, to build Vance up as a leader. Second, to tear Trump down as a liability. And it is working. The narrative is shifting. People who once dismissed Vance as a Trump loyalist are now seeing him differently. He is emerging as a figure in his own right, a potential president, a man ready to lead. Let me address the obvious question. Is Vance actively working to remove Trump under the 25th Amendment? I do not know. No one knows except Vance and his inner circle. But I can tell you what the evidence suggests. The evidence suggests that Vance sees what is happening to Trump. The physical decline, the cognitive issues, the erratic decision-making, the desperate deal-making. And Vance is preparing for the possibility, the likelihood, that Trump will not finish his term. The evidence suggests that Vance is using the media to shape public perception, to position himself as the responsible alternative, to create a narrative that will serve him whether Trump leaves office through the 25th Amendment, through resignation, or through the natural end of his term. The evidence suggests that Vance is building relationships with China, with Russia, with Orban, with international actors that Trump has alienated, so that when he takes over, he has channels of communication that Trump never developed. And the evidence suggests that Vance is not waiting passively. He is acting. He is leaking. He is positioning. He is preparing. He is ready. Let me end with this. You may disagree with my interpretation. You may think Vance is just a loyal vice president doing his job. You may think the leaks are just reporters doing their jobs. You may think the 25th Amendment talk is just political noise. But look at the pattern. Look at the accumulation. Look at what Vance has said and done and leaked. He said he will be ready if tragedy strikes. He traveled to Hungary to campaign for Orban. He attacked U.S. allies. He repeated Kremlin talking points. He leaked stories making himself look like the lone voice of reason. He positioned himself as the broker of the Iran ceasefire. He distanced himself from the terms of the deal while taking credit for the outcome. He told the press that he opposed the war before it started. He told Netanyahu that his assessments were unrealistic. This is not the behavior of a passive vice president waiting for his turn. This is the behavior of someone who sees an opening and is walking through it. Someone who knows that the president is declining and is preparing to step in. Someone who is building the case, leak by leak, story by story, interview by interview, that he is ready to lead. Donald Trump should watch his back, because the person standing closest to him is the person who has the most to gain from his fall. And that person is not waiting. He is acting, he is leaking, he is positioning, he is ready. What do you think? Is J.D. Vance positioning himself to take over under the 25th Amendment? Or is he just a loyal vice president being misread by a suspicious public? Drop a comment below. I want to hear your take. And I will see you in the next video.